So today, guys, we are going to be going over what I think is one of the most underfarmed opportunities currently um in airdrops, I guess. And basically, like for airdrops, guys, like the best airdrops are always the ones that are underfarmed because people aren't really paying attention, people aren't really going to be caring. And I think people are honestly really fading Hyperliquid airdrops right now for whatever reason. And um, I do think Hyperliquid is going to be one of the best DeFi protocols out there simply because Hyperliquid's function is that they use their profits to constantly buy back the Hyperliquid token, which means there's always constant volatility on the token. And when there's constant volatility on the token, that adds a lot of yield for DeFi essentially. So I do think Hyperliquid will be like the best DeFi protocol probably in all of blockchain, just simply because they make so much money. They're making currently, let's just go and check. They're making currently, I think, like $4 to $5 million a day on the weekdays, and probably like 2 to 3 million on the weekends. And they're using all of that to buy back the token. So I personally think this is going to be, like right now, you can see here, they made $4.5 million today, and they are constantly using all of that money to buy back the token, adding constant volatility. Now, of course, let's look at hype right now. It's down right now. And I do think eventually, the price will bottom out once, we kind of recover from this dip, and we will see a bounce back. So in the meantime, I do think it is good to start farming right now because, I don't think anyone's really focusing on this. And I do think this is just going to be a really strong DeFi protocol for quite a while. So, yo, what's up? What's up, Nestlois and Pinkest Floyd? All right, so let's just go ahead and start from the very top of what I would do if I started farming today. Essentially, guys, I would use Paying Boys code out here, and yes, join with code Paying Boy. So what I would do is I would deposit. So first thing you need to do is you need to deposit USDC on Arbitrum. Now I already did that, so I'm ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and deposit all of that USDC I have over onto Hyperliquid, and this is how you get your money onto Hyperliquid. So let's go ahead and get that done. And once you're on Hyperliquid, guys, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to buy some hype. So how we do that? Well, I think first we actually need to wait for. Okay, never mind. Deposit is pretty fast. So you need to first transfer your money from perpetuals to spot. We're going to transfer $10,000 over here, and what we're going to do from here is we are going to buy some hype. So essentially, let's go to spot hype, and let's go buy some hype. So we're going to use $10,000. That's our starting amount here. And then we are going to transfer this hype to Hyperevm. So Hyperevm is like the blockchain for hype. This is like their exchange. So imagine this is kind of like BNB in a way, Binance, where like they have an exchange and then they also have a blockchain. But in Hype's case, they're very seamless. So basically, you can transfer money from Hype to BNB very easily. So we basically bought $10,000 of hype, and now we're going to go use that to go airdrop farm here. Let's go. So first, I wrote down all the instructions here. I'll be sharing this Google sheet in the comments, but we're going to first go to Kinetiq, which is a staking protocol, and we are just going to go and stake. Oh, Oh shit, wrong wallet. So we are going to go stake some Kinetiq over here. See if we can connect to the right wallet. Okay, yeah, there you go. So now we are on the right wallet. So we're gonna stake pretty much all of our hype. Let's leave a little bit behind simply because we need some for gas fees. So what this does is essentially it makes us start yielding some hype. So as you can see, APY is 2.11%. We're gonna start yielding some hype here, and we have just staked it. So from there, we are going to go ahead and lend this Kinetiq hype on these apps here. And essentially, guys, airdrop farming is not anything crazy. It's just you using protocols and keeping money on there. And then one day you get like a nice gift from the crypto gods. They come and drop some money into your wallet. Oh shit, wrong wallet again. Okay, so I'm not a US citizen. You're gonna have to sign some stuff. If you're a US citizen, you might need to essentially use a VPN. So now we're gonna go to borrow over here, and we are going to borrow some hype. So we're gonna deposit half of our K hype here. So that's like gonna be like what, like 115 per se, and then we'll borrow around max. So we'll borrow like 90 hype here. You want to be pretty aggressive on this borrow here. Because you are borrowing the same asset, essentially, there's not much risk of liquidation here. So we can go ahead and borrow some hype. So now we're essentially farming Felix here, which is like one of the top protocols. Okay. Hello? Hello? Okay, well, it's not really working. Okay. I think we got it to work, so let's check it out. All right, I think it kind of bugged out. Let's just refresh it in case it doesn't work. So anyways, same thing. We are going to borrow some hype here. So let's do 115K hype. We are borrowing... Oh, did it go through actually? We are borrowing 90 hype here. Something approved. I'm not really sure what. It was kind of laggy. But... let's try it again. Let's hope he didn't do this twice. But yeah, essentially, we're just going to be borrowing this to essentially get some points on the protocol. Like, the more you do stuff on these protocol, the more points you can get. And, well, doesn't look like it's working yet. Hello? Hello? Okay, so this isn't necessarily the best I'm not best like first use of this protocol, but we just have to truck through. I think this is honestly another reason why I think Hype EVM will be underfarmed, because it's not like necessarily the greatest blockchain. It's not like Solana yet. So like I think like, you know, whenever you are essentially airdrop farming these new protocols, you're essentially betting that they're going to be good eventually, right? So just something to know. Okay, so you want to put half of your Kinetiq hype into Felix and then half into Hyperlend. I know I have the links here. Okay. Let's go ahead and change my wallet because I'm still using another wallet. So we're going to go down here and supply the rest of our K hype here. And essentially, guys, again, this is just to farm points on these protocols. And from that, we have supplied our Kinetiq hype, and we can go ahead and borrow some did it go through? Okay, yeah, it went through. Let's see. So we can borrow some staked hype here. Or no, we can borrow some normal hype here. So again, we want to borrow, you know, probably around near max, not exactly max, like, so I can borrow 66. I'm gonna borrow like 55. You just want to get the maximum amount of points here. And I will be posting essentially the recording of this video back, you know, somewhere. I'll be posting on Twitter somewhere or on YouTube, along with like my Google Sheet, which I use to farm all of this. So essentially we have just, you know, supplied K hype and borrowed hype. And then now we can go back to both of these protocols, and now we can deposit hype and borrow something else. In terms of these protocols, I think I'm just gonna borrow this USDT using hype here. So we are going to put around half of the hype in both protocols again, and we're gonna borrow around half USDT. So, you know, there is a liquidation price. So if hype does drop to $33 or lower, we would start to get liquidated. So if you don't want to be that aggressive, you can go a little smaller, like 1250. Let's just go 1250 because I don't really want to check in on this. And I don't think hype will go all the way down to $28. So like this isn't like a completely risk-free process because, you know, the price of hype could still drop. But actually let me just go make sure we're doing this right. Yeah, lend 50%. So we are going to borrow some USDT, essentially using our hype, and get some more points there. You know, essentially we're just trying to get as much free money as possible with a minimal amount of risk. Yo, what's up, Christian? Yeah, we're back on Twitch. I don't really know about Pump Fun, honestly. I feel like Pump Fun honestly fumbled the bag, and I will keep the token alive for potential airdrops. But yeah, I don't know. The hell, how do I not have enough hype? That has to be a bug. So sometimes MetaMask kind of bugs out here. But essentially, we are just going to continue borrowing some money, and then we're going to move on to the next steps. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to hit as many protocols as possible using, you know, the minimum amount of assets. My audio is not loud. Testing. What about now? Yeah, Pampa honestly is, it's most likely like just going to be kind of dead unless they do something. Okay, but anyways, let's go back to it. So we essentially so far we have lent hype for USDT on Felix, and then now we are going to do the same thing on Hyperlend. So these are like the two main lending protocols that you want to be using, and we're gonna leave some hype behind. You never really want to put all your hype in because you're gonna need some for gas fees. So we're gonna go ahead and supply here as well, and then we're gonna go borrow some USDT again. So we can go borrow over here and borrow some USDT. Let's see, we're gonna borrow 1250 here as well. We don't really want to get our liquidation price too close because we're not trying to check in on these airdrop farming wallets. We're just supposed to, essentially airdrop farm and leave them and chill. So now we have borrowed USDT against our hype here, guys. And we're going to move on to the next step where we're going to go to Hyperwave and deposit our USDT here. Okay. Sorry, I need to change my wallet on like all of these protocols because I was using my main wallet. So we're going to deposit USDT for HWHLP, which is basically a yielding asset on Hyperliquid. And you're going to have to approve it and then send it in. So now we're yielding on our USDT essentially. And to kind of see how the yield works is you got to go to vaults. Essentially, the cool thing about Hyperliquid is the exchange and everything is all mixed in with the blockchain itself. So as you can see here, we basically just changed it for this vault liquidity, which is yielding 11%, which isn't bad. No, that's not bad. 11%. I'll take it. And as you can see, this vault is like pretty much always profitable. So, yeah, the yield's pretty solid there. So anyways, now we're going to go to Hypurrfi here. And we are going to go to isolated markets. And now we are going to deposit our HWHLP. Gotta change my wallet again. Yo, what's up, Teddy? All right. Disconnect. Yeah, I'll be clipping this afterwards. I want to make sure we have like a recordable video, post this on YouTube, post this on Twitter, and then yeah, make sure everyone's printing from airdrops. Now, just so you guys know, if you guys want to like have lower risk, you guys don't need to borrow as much money on everything. So that is basically the plan here. If you guys want to minimize your risk. And you can use smaller amounts, obviously. I do recommend you use at least like some. I think if you have under $1,000, you might not be able to use some protocols. So like I would skip Felix if you have less than $1,000, but I would still go through and do everything else. So now we're just depositing this onto another protocol called Hypurrfi. And we are going to borrow USDT against that. So we're going to borrow around, you never really want to borrow max, but you want to borrow near max for these because WHLP is essentially almost a stable coin and USDT is a stable coin as well. So we're going to borrow near max here. Around like 90% of the borrow. So now we borrowed that. Now we're also farming Hyperfi. So far we'll be farming Kinetiq, Felix, Hyperlend, Hyperwave, Hyperfi, and then we're going to move to Liminal over here. And we're going to go ahead and go to Liminal. And we're going to deposit 500. And I would skip this step if you're working with like in deposit. So maybe deposit 505. I would skip this step if you are working with less than $1,000. So Liminal and Felix, I would skip if you are working with less than $1,000 here. And yeah, essentially, guys, airdrop farming is honestly not that crazy. It's not that complex. It's just like it requires a little bit of work for, pretty high upside. So essentially, like, from this 10K that I'm depositing, I wouldn't be surprised if I made like probably at least like 5 to 10K in an airdrop. So it's around like 100% just from depositing this over here. I mean, it might not be that much, but I think I'll make at least like a few $1,000s minimum. So let's see, it's taking a little while. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty risk-free money, and that's what I like airdrop farming for, where it's like relatively risk-free. You don't have to be too concerned. Now in this case, we are exposed a little bit to Hyperliquid price. So if Hyperliquid starts going to zero, no. I think most of these airdrops will probably come within a few months from now. So, like, but yeah, sometimes like I farmed air, like you want to farm airdrops with money that like you don't really need at the moment. Bruh, it's taking forever. Let's try refreshing. But yeah, if my portfolio was less than like 10K, I think I wouldn't really focus too much on airdrop farming. I would actually focus more on like just trading, just so I can get a little more money. Okay, let's try this again. Yeah, we'll go over the markets after this. We're just gonna go over some airdrop farming because it's been a while, and I've really wanted to do this for a little bit. So anyway, so now we're gonna go. We've now deposited on Liminal, as you can see here. Um, and we're gonna go to the final steps here. So I'm gonna go to Hyperswap here. And we are going to connect the right wallet first. Okay, so we're gonna swap around 60% of the USDT into Hype here. So that would be around probably like 700. We don't have to be exact, it's just like whatever is closest. Okay, so now we have swapped around 700 USDT into Hype, and we're gonna go and click exploit over here. And we're gonna go click this pool has the most points, so we're just gonna add liquidity here. The APY is pretty nice too. For liquidity here, you can just go and put something pretty simple like say a 25% range is pretty easy. The default range is gonna be pretty good for airdrop farming. And we are gonna put around like half of our Hype in, or half of our USDT in rather. Here. So then we're going to be farming Hyperswap as well. And we're just adding liquidity. So essentially what this does is you're just going to be yielding liquidity on Hyperswap as well as farming points. So like right now is definitely the best time to farm these pools, mainly because after the farming period is over, there's not going to be any extra bonus for farming. So right now it's pretty nice because, as you guys may have saw earlier, we're getting around like a 50% APY on just supplying liquidity here, which is not bad. That means you'll be gaining around 54% on average over a year return just from supplying liquidity. And then you're also getting points. So the points will probably be more. I would estimate probably around like at least 100% return on all these airdrops right now. Now we just need to wait for this to go. So sometimes it takes a little while. Hyper EVM is kind of ghetto like that. And you just like speed it up a little bit, go to advanced, change this to 1. The transaction not go. So yeah, guys, again, I think this is another reason why I think these will be mainly pretty underfarmed, is because Hyper EVM, the blockchain, is kind of like ghetto sometimes. It kind of reminds me of Solana. Whenever Solana first came out, sometimes like Solana would start breaking or just like not working, and because of that, you know, I think a lot of people didn't really farm stuff on Solana that much. So we're going to take advantage of people's laziness here essentially, and, you know, essentially try to print a lot. Okay, so let's try this again. 300 USDT. All right, looks like it confirms. If you want to make sure it confirms, I mean, you'll know whenever it leaves your wallet. But, yeah, I mean, it'll pop up if I refresh here, I believe. Oh, it's still pending. Oh, yeah, it's right here. So, yep, we're farming now. So we're making some yield here. And then we're going to go to Prjx over here. So yeah, generally with airdrops, guys, you want to go to the places where no one is really paying attention, and you know, I think these will be places that people aren't really paying attention right now, and I want to take advantage of that. So okay, so we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna deposit and provide some liquidity over onto this pool here. Preview deposit. You can just use the base ranges for this. I think that'll be perfectly fine. Boom. So now we got that done, and then we can go to a Hyperbeat and Valantis and just put, you know, around 50% of our remaining stack of hype left. So you can go to Hype Ultra Beat Hype here, deposit, disconnect. So you can only deposit wrap type here. So what you're going to do is going to need to go to swap first. Swap like, you know, 3 of your hype, which is around half of what I have here, into wrap type essentially. And now we can go put that over here. Deposit. And deposit that on Hyperbeat. And we can go to Valantis left and then deposit what we have remaining. And then we are finished, guys. Now I think we will be farming pretty much all the good airdrops. Like, you know, we're not, it's not going to be perfect, but, you know, let's just go ahead. Yeah, let's put it into this pool here. K hype pool, deposit it. And then I think we are done here. We hit most of the proto. Oh shoot, I need to switch my wallet. Okay. So we'll deposit 3 hype. And honestly, guys, that's it. Like, now we are in a position to make a decent amount of money simply by just depositing money into this protocol. So did it go through? Let's see. Just make sure it went through. Oh yeah, it went through. And then how you can check everything in your wallet in case you might have forgotten you know, where you put your money. So you can go to DBank over here and you can essentially, you know, look up your address. So I just looked up my address and you can see, you know, this is where we put all our money. And yeah, I mean, that's about it, guys. Like, nothing super fancy. Now we're farming pretty much all the airdrops. Not entirely risk-free, honestly. Like, there is still a little bit of risk here. But we are farming pretty much all the airdrops now. And yeah, I mean, that's the entire process for airdrop farming. I do expect to probably make around like at least 3 to 10K from doing this with a 10K wallet. Not to also include like any price appreciation from hype. So, you know, we're still exposed to hype, and if the price of hype goes up, then we also make even more money. So I think it's a pretty good deal. And yeah, that's pretty much how I airdrop farm. Like, normally, I think if I'm like being fucking super rigorous, I'll be doing this on like maybe 5 or 10 wallets. Now that I've already made a lot of money from airdrops, I'm just gonna do like maybe 1 or 2 wallets tops.